New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello, it's me, yes, me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. How are you at this hour, be it morning, noon, or night, whenever you're watching? How are you? I want to take a moment just to say thank you for joining me. If this is your first time, I can just assure you that you have come to the right place to start your healing from grief, or to start on this journey of befriending grief. And if you're returning, I am just honored that we have that type of a relationship now, that you trust me, that you come back to hear and listen to what is being said here. I want to say, make this hour about you, okay? Just sit back, relax, get a cup of tea, and make this hour a part of your day. Drop a comment in the comment box. I would love to hear from you. Question or comment is so welcomed. So that's my welcome to you. And I want to say a little bit about me. I am a grief coach. I'm a registered nurse. I am a religious science practitioner and a licensed soul collage facilitator. Almost forgot who I was there for a minute. But anyway, most importantly, though, is that I am a human being right here on the planet with you, navigating these choppy waters of this thing called life and the smooth sailing of this thing called life. So with that said, I want to talk about our theme for our show today. And our theme is the healing, art as a healing modality for grief. Art as a healing modality for grief. So just holding that, because I think I should just back up a second and talk a little bit about what is grief, and just knowing that grief is caused by loss. Grief is the emotional response that we have to a loss. So knowing that grief is what loss is what we experience, and grief is what we feel. And that is my job. That is my mission here today. And every time that I am on, every time my program is on, that I am here to continue to move the needle of bringing grief out of the shadows of our lives and right into our daily conversations. Because the more that we can talk about grief, the more we normalize it. People too often are ashamed that they're in grief, or feeling that they should be over whatever the grief is. And as Bell Hooks says, we cannot heal in isolation. And an African writer, Sobonfu Somé, says it so lovingly, that we have to ask ourselves, have I grieved enough? Have I cried enough? Have I walked in nature enough? That there's no such thing as getting over grief. It's just moving forward with that loss that has led to grief. So wanting you to know that whatever you feel is truly normal, we're all like those individual snowflakes, just absolutely beautiful in our uniqueness. And therefore, our grief is unique. There's no cookie cutter stamp of approval or a way of showing up with grief. It is different for everyone. And so I just ask you to start to look at how you hold grief. And the more we can talk about it, the more we allow others to talk about it. So then we heal together collectively, we can heal together. And the other beautiful thing about grief is that it holds a superpower. And its superpower is healing. It is the very thing that we want is this healing. But the way to heal is what we run from. So today we continue our discussion on grief. And I have just the most magnificent guest that you can ever imagine today to discuss with me art as a healing modality for grief. I have just the most beautiful guest, such a talented artist. And I want to say the other part that makes her even more beautiful is that she's my friend. So, uh, a friend. Oh my gosh, what's that old term? Friends with benefits, but not in that way. Friends that for a friend that has a benefit of being a beautiful artist and who's always willing to share her knowledge, her artwork with us and with me. And so my guest today is Constance Chapman. And just a little bit about Constance. Constance has a Master of Art in Women's Spirituality. She has a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Inquiry, an interdisciplinary arts program where she studied writing and painting. And Constance is also a licensed spiritual mind practitioner with Centers for Spiritual Living. That's where we met in Oakland. And Constance combines the work of intentional creativity with spiritual work to teach affirmative prayer in paint. Now that is creative. And Constance goes on to say that joy is her mantra. It's her call. Joy and play is what motivates her to paint and to share through teaching as well as learning and stretching her skills as an artist. And I want to bring Constance on to talk more about this beautiful bio and how she so enjoys painting. So help me welcome today to Your Doula for Grief, Constance Chapman. And a world-renowned artist. I'm claiming it for her. So welcome, Constance. How are you?
I'm great, Bonnie. How are you?
I'm fantastic, knowing that I have you here today and you have some beautiful artwork that you will share with us and also share your thoughts and life experiences on using art to heal some of your own personal losses. But before we get to that, Constance, I just want to ask you how you got interested or what opened you to the world of art? What opened you to the world of art?
Well, that's an interesting question. My mom was a trained artist, but she stopped doing art to be a housewife, and so she was always very creative. But she had this thing that, at least the way I experienced it, my older sister sees it differently, but the way I experienced it was that she decided I was going to be the housekeeper and the cook, and my sister could be the artist. So I really felt discouraged from doing anything creative when I was a kid. And then when I was in my late 20s, my mom died, and that was a huge loss for me. And then I found myself in a situation where other people were dying around me as well. So I experienced like 5 deaths within about 3 years.
Wow,
And
Constance.
some people I was very close to, some people I wasn't. And so what it did was it's something. If I go to I'm going to do something and tell me if it changes my screen. Okay, am I still okay?
Oh, you're okay. You're fine. You're absolutely beautiful.
So,
Yes.
so I started writing poetry,
Oh,
and
right. Yes.
so here's this. Oh, my voice, silent for over 30 years, began to speak in voices that I did not understand. Voices bubbled up from the underground springs, meaning hidden by the cloak of forgetfulness. That was just one part of a poem.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of writing of poetry at that time. And I also ran into a woman. I was living in Victoria, British Columbia at the time. A woman who had just finished her MFA and was starting her career as an artist. And I took an art class with her, and I just loved it. But what happened is that I had this belief, which is a prevalent belief in the society, that that in order to be an artist, you have to be able to sell your art. You have to. There's some people with talent and some people that aren't, and that there's only those who can actually produce it and for money are actually considered artists. And
Right.
I couldn't go there. So while I continued to do some stuff, that I really didn't allow myself to do with with visual art. I continued to write, and I never published. Well, not that time. I didn't publish anything. I did do some writing, but again, I have that idea that unless everyone loved it and bought it, it wasn't good.
Right. 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 I
So,
hear you.
um, and uh, but that writing really helped me during those times. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I want to read you another little part because this was after uh, a friend of mine's partner died, and I wrote this for her at the memorial. Death is the ultimate scripture. She opens a door we have no choice but to enter, into worlds we can only imagine or not. Death responds neither to logic or reason or the most cogent of political analyses. Death ignores my every want and need, cares only for stealing someone or something precious from me. Yet while I'm focused on death's form, she leaves me a gift. The
Mm.
gift is always a son. And so
Mm.
that's one of the things I was starting to understand. But it wasn't until the pandemic. Um, so let me backtrack a little. So I kept painting, and I was doing some writing and some painting um, for myself. So let me show you one that I used, a painting that I did after I had broken up with someone that I really loved very much. So Jill, if you could see that first painting of the heart, uh, I, I can show that. Um,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
so
the painting of the heart. Is that it? Yeah. It's a little muffled. You said the painting of the heart.
of the heart, yes,
Yes. Yeah, Joe, if you could show the painting of the, there you go.
yeah. So that one, I was really, even though I broke up with this person, I was just heartbroken, and so I took this canvas and I just started throwing paint at it,
Wow.
and I was
Literally throwing, Constance.
just flipping off the paintbrush this way because it really helped move that grief out of my body, which I
Wow.
think which is the same thing that writing had done. You know, it allowed me to express those emotions in a way that otherwise was stuck. So I did that, and then I turned it. And so if you can bring it back up again just for a second.
Yeah.
Um, I want when I had gotten that far where I had worked through it, I was able to see that you'll see when it gets up here, that at the
Yeah.
bottom there's vines growing up. So I knew that there was something new coming out of it.
Right. Hey, Joe, can you bring the heart back? I'm going to take myself out because I think that makes the heart stand out. So if you can bring the heart back, that would be great. There
Yeah.
you go.
So you can see that in the bottom, you can see that there are vines starting to grow up from the bottom.
Ooh, yeah.
And so that was so even I did all of that, and not only did I throw paint, but then I did this technique where you can put a spray bottle on it and let it drip down. So it was like a tear coming down into that heart. and the anger and the fears and all of it just right there. And so, you know, whether it's a piece of art that would ever hang in a gallery is not the issue. So you can take a set down as well. But so that really just helped me work through on a physical level. I was actually able to physically get some of that.
Oh, can I make a comment
Yeah,
about heart with the little vines at the bottom, like growing up,
yeah,
correct? Um, there's this. I think we talked about this in another conversation, but our heart will actually grow what's called a collateral circulation when some of the
right,
major vessels have been occluded, that
right,
the heart will actually grow other tiny vessels around it. And that's what this painting reminds me of. You had a broken heart and it's starting to grow that collateral circulation. I'll
right,
quote, they'd start the healing process to
yeah,
happen. And I
right.
could really feel, like, when you said that about the tears coming down, it's like, yeah, Constance, that is just oh, how fortunate you were to have that to help you express
Yeah, yeah,
your
yeah. I
heartbreak.
was able to. I had some materials, and I was able to do that.
Mm,
And then, but it was during the pandemic. It was during the shutdown period that when I was doing my master's in women's spirituality, I'd run into a woman who did something called intentional creativity, and I had done some work with her, and I really loved it. But again, I just could not. I didn't think I was good enough to continue.
oh,
So
yeah.
still on her mailing list, and so during the pandemic, one day I just saw, and it wasn't just during the pandemic, but I was working full time at my spiritual center, and the minister that I was working with, who I love dearly, was had a terminal illness. So
Yes.
I was doing, I you know, I knew that the chances of him coming out of it alive were not
Mhm. Yeah.
probably in transition. Um, and so I ran across an email by her, and I just thought, yes, because I was at home, I could do it. So I started painting, and the very first one, I can't even remember what it was, but it was really about, it really was because I think he had transitioned at that time, and
Hmm.
so I did a painting of a face, and I hadn't done anything. I'm not a trained artist, so I hadn't done any figurative stuff for a long time. So you'll see that it's not particularly. I could tell you all the stuff that I would do differently now, but that's neither here nor there. But then the other part of it is a tree that has weeping branches, and that's because that minister was very, very connected to nature. But it was really like that was my part of really allowing him to allow. Again, it was a way of dealing with some of that grief. So um, I don't know,
Right.
Joe, if you bring up that middle one of the.
Right. And before Joe brings up that middle one, I just wanted to point out a couple things that you've said. You've said so many beautiful words, but I do want to first start off by saying, when you were talking about being young and your mom wanted to appoint you as the house person and not the artist. But wasn't during that time, art was not seen as a true profession. It's like, if you got to be able to make money, and art's not going to make money. Speak a little bit about that. That Do you feel, and maybe even now that's still true, Constance, that art is not held as like a reputable career unless you are, on the big stage selling left and right.
Oh, I think it's still. I think still. I was actually reading. There's a new book out. I can't remember the name of it, but uh, a journalist sort of went undercover in the art scene in New York, and and uh, um, and she says that the people in the art scene talk in a language that basically excludes everybody else. It's like, and
Foods,
that
every
excludes
Okay.
everybody else, you know, and that it also it's that the people who work in it almost all are come. They they're paid so little in the art galleries that they can't afford to work unless they're independently wealthy. So it really it keeps it and yeah, anyway, it was just, but it really is a theme that is not set up to be something that is, like if they sell a piece, they don't want it to be in Joe's Blow's house in Queens, where they want it to be someone who's going to be able to display it and loan it to museums, and so it's this whole hierarchical thing that goes on, and I've noticed that too, because I have family members in the art world, and I've noticed that with them as well.
Okay, yeah, but that doesn't deter you or stop you. It continues.
I don't consider myself. What happened is that I realized that, first of all, that that when I started painting again, well, I shouldn't say again because I never stopped, but when I started taking it, that one of the things that happened is that, first of all, I finally allowed myself to. I realized that because I paint with acrylic, it was like, well, if I don't like it, I can just paint over it. Therefore, you're just having fun. So that
I love that.
it wasn't about productivity. It wasn't about being the best on the block. It was about having fun and about allowing myself to work things out in the paint.
Yes.
And once I did that, I was able to actually embrace myself as an artist.
Okay.
And whether I ever sell a piece of art is, I mean, I would love to, but it's sort of irrelevant. It's not why I'm doing it.
Right. It's not your driving force. It's not the ultimate driving force to sell. It's really to express.
So I did this first painting. That was the first painting I'd done of that kind in 12 years, where I had tried to do a face in it. And other else had been, like that heart and stuff.
Right. Beautiful. Oh.
And then right after that, then the same person was offering a longer class, and I decided to take it. And that one, I'll show you that one in a minute. But that one was really, the theme of that was not so much about, I wasn't necessarily grieving, but I wasn't actively grieving. Like I wasn't crying, I wasn't, emotive.
Yeah.
But in this painting, it was like, this painting is, to me, it's me giving compassion to myself as a small person. So it's me being compassionate with that inward part of me that always felt like I wasn't good enough.
Wow, Constance, that's beautifully said. Compassionate.
So that was what that painting is all about. So I don't know, Joe, if you can show those two paintings. Show the start with the one that's on that one. So that was the one, and I had a lot of fun with that because I was playing with the colors with it. It was a lot of fun. It's not a particularly good painting by anyone's standard, but I love it because it actually, to me, it was working out with this releasing of the minister who I had loved and worked with, and who had transitioned, and it also allowed me to do that in a way that brought me incredible amounts of pleasure. So,
wow.
And that's, I think, one of the things about grief is grief can be really overwhelming, as I'm sure you know. It can.
I'm going to have to ask you to say that again, Constance. I really just didn't hear you. Can you say that again?
That grief can be very overwhelming.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes.
Particularly when it's fresh, if someone has just died, or even if it's it can be a pet death can be extremely overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't necessarily a time when you want to go out and play, but if you can do something that gives you a little bit of respite from it, because we can't, my experience is I can't stay in it all the time. I need to get a little bit of a break, and that way it can start to integrate for me.
Yes. Oh,
That's what the reading and the writing. And so the last painting I'll show you is Joe is the one you haven't showed, if you can show that. And so this is the one that I did, and this to me is the bird goddess presenting this little teddy bear, which is my inner child, with which is a symbol of compassion. And in the background, there's all these figures that are actually all the ancestors, all the people around me who have always supported me. So, so again, that was the way of working through some issues. So that's what. So I ended up going on from. That's what. Thanks, Joe. So I went on from that and actually ended up doing training as an intentional creativity teacher. So that I could.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to ask a question though before we move on, while we still have the picture up. I was going to ask, do you remember what was going on in your life at that time when you painted that, or was there impetus for this particular painting? Were you doing some inner work, or what was going on?
I was always doing inner work, but this was it was during the pandemic. I was working fun, but I was working at home. I was basically I can't remember whether the minister had transitioned at that time or not. But you know, I was the only other employee, full-time employee, so I was doing a lot to help things stay afloat at that time. So it was quite stressful. So so I think that's where the compassion came in. I just had to be really compassionate with myself.
Yes. And I love how you said the teddy bear was your inner child. So sweet.
And I have to tell you that the process of doing this is really interesting, because when I do painting, there's often what's called underpainting, where you just did a free flow and this head, the bird head showed up in the free flow.
The bird
head, that head that is like a beak.
Yes.
That showed up in the underpainting.
I see. Okay, in the underpainting.
I just went with it and created this figure that went with it. And then it was like I wasn't sure what to do with it, and I had put that stump in, and I wasn't sure, and so I was talking to someone else who was doing the training that was one of the teachers, and I said, well, what do I do? And she said, ask the painting.
Oh, wow. Wow,
so
the painting.
So I've asked the painting, what does that want? And it said a teddy bear.
Wow, beautiful.
And then I realized that this was all about compassion. So so that's the other thing, is that I'm often asking the painting and letting the painting tell me what the messages are. And so I've done a lot of, so I often write along with the painting.
Okay, using both two modalities, painting and writing. Oh, thank you, Joe. Thank you. And Constance, before we move forward, though, I want to, still keeping that picture in mind. I love when you said in your bio that you love working with color, both vibrant and muted, and that you love mixing colors. And my palette is often set early in the painting. And then you go on to say, this isn't a conscious act of my will. I let my intuition guide me, and often delighted with the unexpected. So can you speak a little bit more to that about your color and allowing the intuition to speak?
Well,
Constance, let me ask you this. And how do you know if it's your intuition or not your ego that wants whatever to come out? How can you differentiate? I know.
I'll tell you a story about one of the latest paintings I did, and this is a good example. I had done a painting last year, and I had I often follow, take a class online and follow someone, and part of this had been an exercise in trust, and so the teacher had it was a fairly big canvas, and after we'd done some painting on it and it has the underpainting. She said, I want you to take a color that is in the same palette but darker. And she said, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to dip your brush, get a small brush, dip it in the paint. Then close your eyes and just start making more. And then you only open your eyes to get more paint. So I did that.
Oh, that's scary for me. It's scary. I go, do what?
And the first thing I saw was a snake. And then I saw there was a whole figure. There's a whole woman's figure there. And so that figure stayed, and I ended up doing the whole painting with it. So I was really in awe. I was just totally in awe. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. That this whole figure, because I was used to having some part of a figure show up and working from that, but to have the whole figure. So on the winter solstice, I decided that I was going to start a painting, and I was going to replicate this process. So I did that, and I did the back painting, and then I took my brush and I closed my eyes and I came up with this hot mess. I say this hot mess. Other people didn't see it that way, but there was certainly no figure there. There was absolutely no figure there. So it just sat for the longest time, and I kept looking at it. That's what I do sometimes. I'll just let the painting sit there and it had two lines that sort of crossed like this in the middle of it. And finally I thought, those kind of look like that's the beginning of the eyes there. So I put the eyes in, and as soon as I put the eyes in, started laughing at myself, because then the whole figure came in, and the whole face came in, and it really is the face of a very stern-looking person with eyes that are very stern-looking, but underneath all of that is this smile, this giggle, because what it reminds me of is, anyone who's been a parent or has looked after kids, sometimes kids do really dumb things and they're really silly, but they're wrong. And as a parent, or as a caregiver, you have to be stern and tell them and reprimand them or do whatever you do to them. But you really, inside, you just want to crack up laughing because it's so funny. Exactly. That's exactly what the painting reminds me. Is that here? My will. I was wanting to will myself to replicate this process, and of course, what I ended up with is this figure telling me, "Yeah, no, it's not you. Let it go."
I love that you can laugh at yourself and that the process can be entertaining. That it's not just all serious and to make this picture look. It's got to be this, that, or the other. It sounds as if you can let go and just relax and letting the energy of the piece take its own course and bring you along. It's bringing you along to it.
Yeah. So I'll give you another example. Just this past weekend, a woman, we had an auction last fall at our spiritual center, and I had put in a day in my art studio as a auction piece. And so this woman had bought it, so she came, and so I set her up, and she started out, and I just gave her paints, and I said, the first thing I want you to do is just play, just make marks here, there, everywhere, and she ended up with something that looked like a portal of the minute. In my mind, I had something else that I was thinking about doing after we did this beginning underpainting. When I saw that portal, I thought, no. And so what we did was I took her into a meditation and had her go through the portal. And for symbols of things that symbolize what it is she wants to bring into her life.
Manifesting.
And so she came back out and she changed up the whole painting immediately and started putting all these other things. It turned out to be a magnificent. She'd never painted before.
Wow.
And so, and then I did give her a few tips. We did a few things. I showed her how to do some stuff that that enhanced it, but basically it was her intuition and my intuition that allowed this painting to come to life. And that's what it's about. It's not necessarily about, again, it's not necessarily painting something that's going to hang in the mantle.
Yes, yes, something that satisfies you as the artist, something that
that is beautiful, that is beautiful in your eyes, and that you can put on your wall, and that you can learn from it.
Yes, yes.
You know,
Oh,
in this process, she was drawing, and you know, I kept saying, because I talked to her about art as life. That art is not just something
art
we
as
do.
life.
Art as life. So how is your art?
Right.
How's your life art? And so even
Right.
breathing is part of that art, because
Oh,
when you're painting, particularly, you know, you're painting with light and dark. You're painting with shadow. So if you have two colors that are opposite, like uh, red and green, are opposite.
right, right.
If they're on the same, if they're next to each other on the canvas, they make both of them pop out. But if they start to merge, you get the shadow, you get the gray.
Oh, yeah. Do
And the
you?
gray and the shadow actually allows the other stuff to pop out.
It's like it augments the other versus overtaking it. Because I think when I think of shadow work, I think it's overtaking. But no, you're saying that it augments. That it's almost like like a yin and yang. Would you say?
Well, yeah, I would say, and yeah, and
Um,
so
yeah.
yeah, so it's important to play when you're dealing with something visual. Playing with that light and dark is really, really important.
Mm-hmm. And oh, I should say that you are an art teacher and instructor, and you studied, was it intentional creativity or transformational creativity? I can't remember.
It's called intentional creativity. So I'm a certified intentional creativity teacher. So I'm not
And
really a teacher. An art teacher is someone who teaches you how to paint a figure. Um, so I do that. I do a process just like I described on the weekend, where you know, I may have a few things that I can show you, but basically it's helping you get in touch with what it is that you want to say on the canvas and do it in a way that is visually pleasing.
I like that, Constance. So you're not an art teacher, you're art instructor. You're someone that can help people paint.
An intentional creativity teacher. So I'm
And,
a creativity coach, if you want to put
right.
it that way.
Oh, I like
So
that.
that comes in many forms. It may be writing, it may be art, it may be cooking. You know, cooking is an art, and that's
Oh,
actually,
yes, yes, yes. It is an
you know,
art. It's an art.
so that was the other thing. My mom was an incredibly good cook, and so she kept me in the kitchen. You see, it wasn't like she wanted me to dust the house because she hated that. I hated that. But I was in the kitchen with her, so I learned to cook, and she would chase my sister out. I would chase my sister out. So it was a
Mm,
really uninteresting thing in my childhood. But nonetheless, my sister is now a very good cook, and
yeah, okay.
I want to do art. So we both come full
Cook
circle.
as well. Good cook as well.
Yeah.
I've got some questions before I ask you the questions I have about art as a healing modality. I just wanted to go way back, circle back. When you were reading the poem, there was a little bit of part that I didn't hear, but there was something, and I wrote it down that you said. Oh gosh, maybe grief is overwhelming, or there was a part in your poem about death being overwhelming. Does that, I thought I made a note, not a gift.
Let's read it again.
Oh, death. Oh, I think you said death is the ultimate, and I couldn't hear any of that. So could you say that?
Okay. Death is the ultimate trickster.
Stricter?
Trickster, like a trick, playing trick.
Oh, a trickster. Yeah, that. that's what I wanted to ask you to speak a little bit more to your thought of death as a trickster.
Well, it goes on. She opens a door we have no choice but to enter,
Hmm.
in the world we can only imagine or not. Death responds neither to logic or reason or the most cogent of political analyses. Death ignores my every want and need, cares only for stealing someone or something precious to me. Yet while I am focused on death born, she leaves me a gift. The gift
Mhm.
is always of self. And so that was something that I got quite early on as
Mhm.
when I was in my early 30s, when I had all these people die, is that
Oh,
is that I realized that, like, they were gone. I was left with this grief. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't bring them back. I couldn't do anything else. But there
mhm.
was always a gift in there for me. There was always something for me to learn,
Yes,
something
Constance.
that I can grow from it.
Mm.
And,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
that's how I see death as a trickster. Because
Yeah.
the trickster in I'm not sure I get this absolutely correct, but the trickster in many cultures is an incredibly important feature, because the trickster is one who keeps us from getting too much into our heads, and
Mhm.
death takes us out of our heads real quick.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh,
You say
Constance,
this,
I'd love a copy of that poem. That would just, I would be so honored. I would love to share
okay?
that with credit for that. And for me, when I think of trickster, it's like it shows up as one thing, but it takes you in another direction that you had not,
Yeah,
that you had not envisioned or planned. And
yeah.
I do so believe that, grief, just like that trickster, has gifts. I
Oh,
call it, the heaviness that shows up with all these bags. They're laden down with all this heaviness. But inside of those bags are presents or gifts for your life. If we,
absolutely.
yeah, and that's why it's so important that we are able to talk and share our feelings around death and things that we've been through, and, in our grieving process that have led us to new understandings. And gosh, Constance, I don't think we have enough time for for oh yeah for enough time, because I've got like 6 little questions and maybe I won't ask them all. Maybe I'll just ask you your opinion on a couple. I'll just pick them out. And this one is only because you just talked about this, and I think it so supports what you just talked about, that creating artwork can be enjoyable. It provides a welcome reprieve from your heavy bereavement.
Yeah,
It enlivens, energizes, and nurtures your playful, childlike side. And it has been proven scientifically that the creation of art actually increases the serotonin levels in your brain, which helps fight depression. Do
yeah.
you want to say anything to that? Oh, your last piece of art we didn't get to. Did we see the last piece? Yeah, we did. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask if you wanted to speak to that playful side, or maybe you did.
All
But
I,
anyway,
all I can say is ditto to that. I mean, I think it is. It's when I allowed myself to play, instead of being serious about thinking that I had to do it right and that it had to be perfect, it had to be this way. I had to let that go before I could actually embrace, visualize as something that was something that I enjoyed, because it is about enjoyment. It is about,
right,
as
right.
when we're kids, we know that. You know,
I know when we're kids until we get it kind of.
painting. Remember how much fun finger painting was?
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah. Oh, and we used to take mud and a stick and draw things in the mud.
Yeah,
That was art. It was super fun. It was messy and fun.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly, and the other thing is that um, I do believe that when we're painting in a particular way, you know, if we're paying attention, if we're conscious of what we're doing, and we're
Mhm.
doing it with the idea of transformation, we can
Right.
actually we can actually transform some um, some of the trauma, some of the grief that's been in our life,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
because it brings the whole body. It's a whole body thing, and we can
Yeah.
actually do things like put symbols on the paintings of things and that are things that we want to let go of, and we can compost them on the painting and turn them into something and turn them into something else. Just like that painting of the heart, where you know I did all the grieving and all
Throwing the paint. You
and,
were
and,
paint.
and those tears, and then then my intuition just said, okay, now that the flowers can start growing.
Wow. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, right, Constance. Well, I've got one more for you.
Okay.
And tell me your thoughts. It's creative art can help you express emotions that are very hard to put into words. As one grieving artist put it, the most emotional connection I have to art is knowing that they are always there for me. So how do you feel with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I found when I first started writing. Is that
Oh,
when I first started writing, um, and I was dealing with some really heavy stuff,
mm-hmm,
um, and I was just able to put emotions on in words that I hadn't been able to put. I wasn't able to talk about them because I was. I mean,
mm-hmm,
that's my life. I was very much into my left brain. I was, you
mm,
know, I
yeah,
was an academic. I was, you know,
mm,
and um, so it was actually a way of allowing myself to express things that I couldn't express in any other way. And the same with painting. Sometimes you can express things on there, even with
mm,
the choice of colors and, um, you know, just with whatever. And so, yeah.
mm. Great, great. Okay, one last one because I want you to talk a little bit about what you're doing in the world. So this is our last one. Art gives you a feeling of empowerment, capability, and freedom that your grief tragedy may have robbed from you. Do you feel that art can give you that empowerment and freedom?
Well, absolutely. It depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from a place of I have to be perfect with it, it's not going to
Oh,
do that. It's just going to exacerbate that. Because that's one of the things that when I work with people, we work with the critic a lot because uh, the critic can be very strong and the critic can get in the way. Uh,
yes, yes.
and so that's someone we work with. Um, um, but yeah, if once we can learn to work with the critic instead of letting the critic work us,
Mm-hmm,
then if art, what in whatever form, can be extremely transformative.
mm-hmm. Very, very good, Constance. Um, I said that was my last one, but I'll just say this, and I think you've already spoken to all these that I have written down, that creating images can help you express or cathartic cleansing or purging of intense emotional pain. That art can do that for you. And I think you talked about that freely in the heart that you had there, of
Yeah,
that being so cathartic for you to get those tears out, to
yeah.
say that heart was just
And the anger, there's a lot of anger there too. So yeah.
yes. And wow, Constance, just a beautiful art, a beautiful history. Thank you for sharing. And don't forget to share the poem with me. But I just want to say that I know you've just retired and have a new life opening up for you. And what are your plans going forward, taking your art with you? Anything our listeners can contact you about or what you're doing?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Got this realization the other night that I love doing it. I actually I had a wonderful time on Saturday when I worked with this women all day in the studio. We had a lot of fun. She went home with something. The part that I don't want to do is create a business. That to me is work. I'm not willing to work right now. I'm sorry.
Well, you're retired. You're only 6 weeks out. Maybe it's been 6 weeks. We'll have you back next, in a couple months to see where you are.
But if someone wants some creativity coaching, I would be glad to do that. And they can contact me. But at the moment, like I don't have a website. I have a Facebook page that I've done nothing on. That's sort of where I'm at in terms of my retirement. I'll be absolutely transparent.
Oh, I think you're enjoying retirement. There's no demands on your time. Okay, you do what you want when you want.
Time, but I'm being very selective. It's like doing the part that, like, what I'm doing is enjoyable, and if it's not enjoyable, I don't want to do it.
Yes. Well, I know you said that you had a student this past weekend, and was that are you planning to offer classes out of your home or or what's your plan around taking this beautiful work and out into the world or spreading it? Just how are you spreading it in your own world? Yes.
To asking me to get in my left room, and I'm not going to go there, my friend. So,
it's a good thing you are truly muted because I can't understand what you said. So I'm going to let it go with that. I'm going to just say, I would like to ask you, are there any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience now around embracing art as a healing modality for their grief? Any parting words you'd like to say around it?
Well, particularly if you're dealing with grief at the same time, follow your intuition. Follow what if you're feeling sad, paint sad, or bright sad. If you're feeling anger, paint angry, and then it can start to transform. And then allow those little bits of joy that come in. Don't feel guilty about them. Just let them be there. They're there to help you.
That's a wise statement, Constance, because too many times people are grieving and they feel guilty when they have moments of joy. They actually feel guilty about having moments of joy. It means they didn't love the person enough or whatever happened that put them into grief wasn't serious enough. So embracing whatever emotions come up when you're doing the art. And I also love that you said cooking is an art as well. And there's, cooking, dancing, singing is an art. You're writing. Writing is an art. And I'm not a painter, but I love.
Life is art.
Oh.
I think if we embrace life as art, then we're on our way to having a great life. And part of that art is the shadow, and the shadow is the grief. That's important. So embrace grief as art.
Yes, grief as art. Yes. Thank you. That's just absolutely beautiful, Constance. And you're welcome to come back at any time and bring any of your beautiful paintings or your writings with you. I've so enjoyed having you, and the time just goes by way too fast. I was thinking of having a little commercial break, and I thought, well, I don't think there is space for that right now. And Constance, are you also doing spiritual counseling and your coach as well, correct?
Yes, I'm a registered spiritual mind.
Right.
Just like you are. And so that always comes into my work.
Yeah, and I was going to ask Joe to just put up your email again to get in touch with Constance for any questions about art, any questions about coaching and coaching with art, embracing it all. So Constance is there, and as she has been here for us today, just with all of her grace and beauty, I so appreciate you and bringing beautiful art. And she's allowed me to feel like it's doable. If I wanted to get a brush and some paint, I could go for it without feeling like, oh, Rembrandt, it's going to smile down from the heavens or Picasso or somebody. Hey, Constance, just because I'm thinking of this, what famous women artists are there?
So many. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the very first ones that really inspired me was a Canadian artist by the name of Emily Carr. She painted. She was
Mm-hmm.
born as Victorian Victoria in Victoria, British Columbia, into
Mm-hmm.
a Russian family in the 1800s, and
Yeah.
she did some of the most incredible artwork. But she had, I mean, she had to go so totally off the grid, like
Yeah.
you know, time women were always supposed to paint the flower things, and
Mm-hmm.
she would. She had a caravan that was what we would call now an RV, but it was, in 1900. And when she would go into the forest, she would get Tree Mason's guides to take it into the forest, and she painted, and she would sketch all summer. She would do that by herself, and then she would come back and do these incredible paintings. So if you've never heard of Emily Carr, look up her work.
Mm-hmm.
She was one of the very first people to inspire me. And there's so much spirituality in her painting.
Spirituality in her painting.
Oh,
Okay. Well, I'll ask you for her name later and share it next
it's
time.
I-Y. Last name is Carr, Carr.
Okay, yeah, we're pretty muffled. Carr. And her first name?
Emily.
Oh, Emily. Okay, that's pretty easy. Emily Carr. I will look for her. One last thing, Constance, if someone does want to, they've never painted it, they've never painted, what would you recommend? Just go and get what? What would be an easy way to start?
I wouldn't say there is a particular one way to start. Um, there's the person that I studied with is that does a lot of online classes. Is a woman named Silo Sophia, and she has an organization called Musea, MUSEA, and she does
Okay.
a lot of online classes.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what you want. You can take art, traditional art classes at at community colleges. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, or
Great.
it just depends on what you want. A lot of people do crafts, and crafts is art too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about how do you want to express yourself.
Yes. Self-expression
It's
is
about
what.
self-expression. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking painting because we've looked at your painting, so that's why I say that. But you're so correct. It is a self-expression, however, or
Yeah.
whatever medium you choose to explore.
Right.
So
Right.
I just want to thank you so much, my darling dear Constance. Thank you. And as I said, Constance is available for more dialogue. Just send her an email, and she'll be more than happy to respond, I'm sure. So I just want to take this moment to say thank you to everyone for watching. And my tagline for grief is don't do grief alone. Don't do grief alone. Picking up that paintbrush, you're not alone, or doing whatever form of self-expression that is within you, and try to engage others to join you if you can, because grief can be very isolating. So remember that, and we can't heal in isolation. So, as I always say in closing the show, I want you to go to the mirror right now, and I want you to look yourself in the eye right now and say, what do I need right now? What do I need right now? And whatever comes up, honor it and do it. And so until we're back next week, again, I'm Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. I am a grief coach, and you can reach me at Bonnie at yourdoulaforgrief.com. So I thank you all for watching, and come back next time for more dialogue around grief and its beautiful gifts. And thank you, Constance. Big love to everyone. Thank you. Ciao, ciao. See you next week.